Philadelphia Eagles opened up the season with a win on maybe one of the crazier opening nights of my lifetime. I mean, we saw an ejection within the first play. We saw a season ending injury in the first play. We saw an hour-long delay during this game. And we got a lot of offensive touchdowns in the first half and defenses that absolutely clamped up in the second half. All in all, it was a much better game than expected. But there's definitely some stuff to talk about on the Philadelphia Eagles side of things. Outside the defense struggling to start the game with penalties and not necessarily performing up to their standard, they turned it on towards the end of the game. And while the offense started the game hot, there were some noticeable concerns about this Philadelphia Eagles offense and how they were operating against the Dallas Cowboys defense that not many people respected going into the game. I feel like it's necessary to talk about A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith's quiet days and Jalen Hurts basically being non existent down the field, finishing with 152 passing yards and only averaging 6.6 yards per completion. Let's talk about it right now here on Blitz Sports Media and break down the film. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Linkletter, and you can find me on socials at BlitzLink. Obviously, last night was a great win for the Philadelphia Eagles, taking down their division rival in a game that lasted 4 hours. And that's any sort of win that you'd want in the NFL. Sure, they were favored by 8.5 points, but the Eagles got the job done and are 1-0 and moving on to next week. Where the concerns start is how bad this passing offense was last night. Jalen Hurts throwing chart from Next Gen Stats had one pass down the field, which was a Jahan Dotson completion of 51 yards. Everything else was an under 10 yards air yards attempt, which is a little bit concerning considering the fact they have two of the better receivers in the NFL between A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Both those players combined for 4 total targets, which is absolutely crazy. Dallas Goedert led the team with 7 this past week, but Hurts did it on the ground just as much as he needed to. 2 touchdowns scored there, but the passing offense just did not look the same as it did last year, and it was in a large part due to the scheme that Matt Eberflus deployed against these Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts did a good job of taking what they gave him early on in this game, but he also had some, plays where I think he could have had back and targeted this defense differently. Obviously, with a first-year offensive coordinator, this offense is going to get better as the season goes on, but definitely not the opening day start and the fireworks that a team coming off of a Super Bowl win was expected to have compared to a Cowboys team that was reeling on defense after losing their star edge rusher and Micah Parsons. So let's hop into the film room and see if we should be worried about the downfield passing attack to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith over the course of the 2025 season. As I mentioned before, the Philadelphia Eagles got played against a Matt Eberflus defense that runs a ton of cover 3. He did it a lot with the Bears last year, and he did it a lot in this game right here. You're going to see basically these defenders over here. Right, you're going to have my laggy marker also in here. You're going to have a too high safety look at the start. Right, obviously you're going to want to check and see if there's a check down mark between those two guys and Jalen Hurts, seeing, probably nothing going to be over the top or probably going to get a too high look. When this play goes through, though, what you're going to see is as we roll this thing out, Jalen Hurts is going to assess, see that there's a little bit of rotation there. But when these safeties get into play, you see the safety right here, I believe this is Malik Hooker stepping down to a hook responsibility. And then you have this safety actually playing the over-the-top type responsibility right here. And then you're going to have these corners drop back for a true cover 3 look just like that. But this defender right here, the safety, is going to step into the box and play more of a rotational cover 3, which is what a lot of teams are starting to do in today's NFL. And obviously Matt Eberflus has done it a lot in Chicago and was really good at it. And then kind of how this play plays out, you're basically going to see how the rotation works with this thing. Pause it kind of right around here. The ball is out at this point, right? Hurts kind of assesses at this point right here. He's looking at Goddard or A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown looks like he's just clearing, looking at Goddard across the middle. But this route right here, where Devonta Smith is breaking right there, that is covered by the hook to curl. Brown is covered there. You have a defender and a flat defender right there. And then you have the linebackers or nickel corners that are responsible for the flats. And that's a lot what the Dallas Cowboys went with against the Eagles yesterday. All right, here's another play we're going to get almost a similar type of look, but this one is going to be a true cover 3 look. You're going to have the top corner drop. You're going to have another corner drop. And then you're going to have this right here where it is a true cover 3 show right away. The Eagles are going to try to move A.J. Brown around. He is going to be the primary target on this route on a zig route, so he's trying to go here and then break out. This is a 3rd and 5 situation. They're trying to get A.J. Brown the ball, but it just can't happen against this cover 3 look where the Cowboys defend it really well. Pause right here. Jalen Hurts is looking right at his guy in this situation. You look everywhere else. The Cowboys have this perfectly covered, especially for a 3rd down, but there's one thing that leaves open, and it's the scramble, right? If he throws this ball to A.J. Brown, like the play design is going, right, he's probably going to be short of the sticks that are right around probably this like 20 or 19 yard line right there. Obviously, you have defenders right here that are both kind of keying in on them and their responsibilities. He's supposed to have the flat. He's supposed to have the hook to curl area. And then that's there. His second read is probably the tight end off of this there, and then across the middle of the field. And Hurts does a great job of eventually scrambling and getting the 1st down on this play, but it kind of showcases what the Eagles were trying to do is still get their guys the ball, but with nothing open, Hurts has to make some plays with his legs, and he did that in the first half, and it resulted in a lot of points for the Eagles despite their star wide receivers being covered. Part of it, too, is Jalen Hurts has to recognize the coverage quicker, which I don't think is necessarily the strongest part of his game. Typically, he has a lot of time to throw back there. It isn't necessarily the player that gets the ball out of his hands as quick as possible. And when you play a defense like the Cowboys played, a heavy zone coverage look at this situation, right, you take a look at A.J. Brown and the separation you have, and this is a 1st down play, right? He could get the ball right here to A.J. Brown. This is a cover 4 look where corners are playing off. You have the safeties that are actually going to play over the top here. All 3 of these linebackers right here are all going to be hook to curl in the middle of the field. So anything open right here, kind of in this flat range, is going to be an easy, free 8 yards. And then obviously with A.J. Brown's skill set, he's able to break tackles at an elite rate. Jalen Hurts instead gets a little bit gun-shy, looks off of him, holds the ball, and then dumps it down right to Saquon Barkley. I mean, these are a play where you take a look at the separation that A.J. Brown has at this point right now, right? Hurts has to have this ball out, and if he doesn't get the ball out in certain defenses like this that the Eagles might face more often this year, I don't know how much A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, for example, are going to have success if Hurts can't capitalize on these wide-open throws immediately instead of trying to improvise, hold around with the ball because his offensive line is so great. This play right here is a perfect example of kind of how the Eagles should have attacked this soft cover 3 a lot yesterday. Obviously, this is not a rotational look like I showed you guys with the first one. This is a true cover 3 where these guys are going to be playing soft coverage off, right? And you have the boundaries and kind of that flat area if these guys are not able to get there quickly to go through and attack these zones. And that's what they did. In a key situation, it was, hey, let's go get A.J. Brown the ball. And, he's wide open right here. Jalen Hurts doesn't think. Wide open, bang. That's an easy completion. And this play basically sealed the game because we know how good the Eagles are on 3rd and short, and they finally were able to take advantage of a soft coverage right there in cover 3. Let's take a look just right about there, right? Like the corner is getting his depth. He's trying not to get beat over the top. Brown is able to sit on a deep out route, work back to the ball. Hurts gets it out quick, and that's exactly what you wanted to see against these coverages that they should have taken advantage of all night long last night. All right, now this is the exact same play I showed you guys the very first play we broke down in this film. This safety right here is going to focus more on the middle part of the field, kind of hook to curl range that the linebacker is supposed to have. This safety is going to drop, right? These corners are going to drop right here, right? And Kaiir Elam is a guy that they should have targeted all night right here, who really struggled in Buffalo throughout his tenure, but, finds his way in Dallas. Obviously, Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs are really solid players, but, this is a guy they should have targeted all night. And this was the one play over 10 yards that Jalen Hurts actually threw the ball over 10, and they got a big-time completion over 10 because they were able to capitalize on this situation. You'll take a look here. They're kind of motioning A.J. Brown out like they expected. Trayvon Diggs goes with that. Right here in this situation, right, you have your guys covered here, right? But Jalen Hurts does a good job of looking down the field and finding the one-on-one matchup with the deep third still there, and he gets a big-time completion, right? This is what you want to see more from the Eagles, and, you have one vertical post there that attracts the safety, and then you have Jahan Dotson working over the middle right there. This is the type of concepts they need to be running more, especially with the skill set they have at the wide receiver position to have a lot more success. Last year, here's a similar type of concept against a cover 4 coverage. Obviously, it's not cover 3, what they saw a lot last night, but it goes to show you kind of what they should be utilizing more in passing situations to go and get their best guy, A.J. Brown, the ball in his hands. You'll take a look here. He just takes advantage of being in motion like we saw yesterday, but just soft coverage at the top of his route, and he's able to make a good breakout and get a big time gain. The Eagles need to take advantage of this because A.J. Brown is really good setting up defenders down the field. And obviously, if they're running a coverage where they have a deep third responsibility, they're not going to want to get beat over the top. Having A.J. Brown work these routes like he did a ton last season is what they need to add a different dimension to this Eagles offense that looked pretty pedestrian at times last night, dinking and dunking. There's the film, guys, and we saw what Matt Eberflus was able to do. Zero man coverage snaps over the night. He wasn't allowing the more talented team, in the Philadelphia Eagles, to basically say we're gonna, blitz all the time and try to rely on our one-on-one matchups against the really talented players like an All-Pro, like AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, a Pro Bowler, Saquon Barkley in the running game. They weren't going to take their chances. They said we're going to play a cover three. We're going to rotate that coverage, whether that's showing potentially a cover four, cover two look over the top, and then rotate into a cover three. And it gave the Philadelphia Eagles fits in terms of throwing their passing game off. Sure, the Cowboys lacked pressure for a majority of this game and weren't able to do much which allowed Hurts to run around and convert a lot of third downs with his legs alone. That's a great option, but against better teams, the Philadelphia Eagles and Kevin Patullo, their new offensive coordinator, are going to have to find ways to get their stars more involved against different type of coverages. AJ Brown against zone coverage has really not been as effective during his Philadelphia Eagles tenure. He's only averaging 2.55 yards per route run against zone compared to averaging 3.8 yards per reception or yards per route run against man coverage. So they need to find a way to start excelling against zone coverage, or I feel like some teams are going to start to adjust to this Philadelphia Eagles offense. Their offensive line is great, and it's going to keep them in games as long as that unit stays healthy. We will see what's going on with Landon Dickerson there, and there was a clear impact when he left that game. If Jalen Hurts is not protected, he's not necessarily the best at dissecting the defense and getting the ball out of his hands like some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. If they are healthy and they are able to attack zone coverage by finding the soft spots on the outside, getting the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands when they need him on the outside quicker, and then taking more deep shots on the outside when they have the one-on-one coverages in the cover three looks that they want to see. That's what they need to do against zone coverage more. Obviously, they're always going to have that ground game too with Saquon. He only averaged 3.3 yards per carry last night, but was still effective, it felt like, in moving the rock for them, except in that second half. I think the Eagles are still in a good spot. It's not a time to panic, but it's definitely something to watch and pay attention to over the course of the 2025 season as defenses watch this game and see how they can adjust to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith long-term, and especially in fantasy football, will be okay, but it's definitely something to monitor. If a lot more teams go to zone coverage, these two players could be in for more down years than we've seen in a very run-heavy offense. Let me know down in the comment section below, how worried are you about this dink and dunk passing game we saw for the Eagles based on that cover three look Eberflus gave them? If you're interested in more Blitz Sports Media content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys next time.